think that the way it can be done is that I think what sports does is it shows people what human beings are capable of. So it kind of, I think the reason people can be inspired by, even people who aren't interested in sports, they see behaviors that they kind of identify with, either more or less, either secretly a little bit, they see something and they think, oh, maybe I could do something like that. It might not be the same thing, but something like that. And so what I think sports is really about is about kind of showing people what can be done. In sports, about a narrow goal of, how high you can go or how far you can do or how fast or whatever like that. And in the climate and ecological emergency, we need this sort of idea of showing that we can all do something, because actually we can't afford to wait for, that person over there to act, or we can't afford for the next layer up above us to act. We can't afford to wait for the governments to act. We all have to act, and at all levels, organizations, individuals, governments, and globally. And so sport for me is about taking that action and showing, and it's a sort of leadership. I think athletes show a sort of leadership. They don't wait for other people to show them what can be done. They go and start doing it a little bit. For me, this sort of leadership is not about telling people what to do. That's leadership of, do that. This is leadership kind of going, guys, look, this is possible. Let's do this. And so for me, Champions for Earth is about showing people that there are people out there prepared to use their voices, responsibly, use their influence responsibly, exactly like what Katie was talking about in that community, and showing that, even though we're all somehow imperfect, we all have, things that we've done or do even that perhaps don't contribute perfectly towards saving the planet for the future. We're not prepared to be silenced, and we're prepared to show that leadership, to show that it's possible to use our voices despite being imperfect. And that is a sort of leadership that I think is actually quite common in sports, because it shows to people, I can't do this yet, but I'm going to try. And so that for me is what sports brings, that kind of spirit.
I just can't help but to think about the global context of sport and how it's just, even just football, it touches every corner of the globe. I mean, not that there's corners on the globe, but like there's very few places that, you don't see kids out wherever trying to kick a ball around. And I just feel as if there aren't too many people who aren't connected to sports in some way, whether they're watching it, whether they're managing it, or like somehow part of the associations. And being at Lewis as a community-owned club that's trying to instill value into the community, I think there's so much power in that. If sports associations, clubs and things took responsibility for the communities around them and thought about like what their needs are. And I like the ideas of the sustainable development goals, and each kind of sporting organization associating themselves with one of them that's most valid to them and their community around them, and kind of working through sport, building that potential of the community around them, and just protecting and looking after it. And I think like sport is the perfect bringing together of people of all different types of backgrounds and the different skill sets as well. I think there's just so much potential there if we can figure out how to just organize and get those kind of systems in place so that we can benefit and improve the communities around us.
What sport has helped me learn over the last 5 to 6, 7, 8 years maybe is that although you might set a target that seems huge, like oh, it'd be quite cool to go to an Olympics. And at the time, you seemed so astronomically shy of that kind of standard that it's so unlikely to happen. But you break it down and you try to get into the top boat for your local club, or then you try to compete for your university, and then you might go to under 23s, and you build in stages. But it's really important at each stage to be giving your absolute all, as though that long-term goal were right around the corner. And I think that with the climate crisis, there's a real temptation to perpetually defer what needs to be done. And you think, well, the scale's so huge, and we can still carry along with our day-to-day lives pretty normally at the moment where we are, because we're very lucky. But that's not the case elsewhere in the world, and it's not going to be the case as we clock through these coming years. And so I think that's the kind of having to be urgent about something, even though it's a way away, is the real take home from me and what sports identified to me.
Spirit of sport taken into the world of caring for nature and each other and our planet. That is absolutely brilliant. So it sounds to me like we're about assembling a team of athletes around campaigns where we can use our collective voice, maybe find our collective voice as well. Use our podium, use our platform, use just the essence of who we are in every single case to call for action, supporting others as they do the same in the struggle, because it is a struggle for justice, whether it's climate, ecological, or any other form of justice.